The UK doesn't usually come to mind when people think of UFOs, but over the years, there have been sightings so strange and so well documented that they've left investigators and official bodies without answers. Join me, Ned, as we explore 3 true UFO encounters from the UK. Picture a classroom in rural Wales, February 1997. It's lunch break and 14 10-year-old children spot a 50-foot cigar-shaped craft hovering over their school field. Then, silver-suited aliens emerge. What happens next turns sleepy Broadhaven into Britain's own UFO hotspot. This all took place in Broadhaven, a small village in Pembrokeshire, West Wales. A place of sandy beaches and sleepy cottages. But between February and April 1977, this quiet coastal community was gripped by a wave of unexplained sightings. So many, it came to be nicknamed the Welsh Triangle. On the 4th of February, during lunch, 14 children from Broadhaven Primary School reported seeing a large metallic cigar-shaped object moving through the trees and then descending into the adjacent field. The headmaster separated them and asked each one to draw what they had seen. Unanimously, they all drew the same strange craft, and some even sketched a silver humanoid figure. One of those children, David Davies, recalled decades later, "My sighting only lasted a couple of seconds, but it popped up and went back behind the trees." Skeptics suggested that it may have been farm machinery, a helicopter, or even a sewage tanker, but UFOologist Emlyn Williams countered, "Farm kids would know farm kit. A helicopter or military jet would have been loud, yet none reported noise." He asked, "One child can lie, but can a whole class?" And 40 plus years later, none have recanted. In April, Rosa Graville, a hotelier in nearby Littlehaven, claimed she saw an upside-down saucer land in a field beside her hotel. She described a searing heat, flames, and then faceless beings emerge before everything vanished. The next morning, she said the ground was scorched, 2 inches of burned earth, she claimed. Shortly thereafter, farmer Mark Mawson reported seeing a 7-foot-tall, silver-suited figure with a visor-like shape stepping out of a ship. The next day, he and his father allegedly found enormous footprints in the mud. The Ministry of Defence took an interest. At least one flight lieutenant from nearby RAF Brodie investigated, but found no physical evidence. One commented dryly, "Should a UFO arrive, we will charge normal landing fees and inform you immediately." No wreckage, no radiation traces, just a village full of accounts and no proof. So while skeptics say the cigar could have been a sewage tanker top, the silver beings? Local prankster Glyn Edwards later claimed he wore a silver suit around town as a jest. Yet eyewitnesses remain firm. As Elwyn Williams said, at least one would have admitted it was a hoax, but they haven't. Broadhaven's UFO saga sparked over 400 reports in a single year. In 2023, Netflix's series Encounters dedicated its first episode to the story, reviving interest and local investigation. Today, the mystery remains unsolved. Some chalk it up to mass hysteria or misidentification. Others insist something truly inexplicable passed through that Welsh sky. So, imagine you're 10 years old. Your pals rush in from the playground, eyes wide. You follow, you look, and you believe you've just seen something from another world. Would you doubt yourself, or stare again? If you lived in Broadhaven in 1977 and saw that, would you tell the school, the headmaster, or would you just say nothing? Imagine you're on a base at RAF Cosford late at night March 1993, when suddenly, multiple people, including military and police, see a silent triangular craft slicing through the sky, low and fast, trailing lights. What was it, and why did this incident catch the attention of the Ministry of Defence? RAF Cosford sits quietly in Shropshire, a training station since 1938. But on the 31st of March 1993, its calm air was pierced by something unexplained. A triangular UFO, witnessed not just by cadets, but by Ministry of Defence police, Met Office staff, and even personnel at RAF Shawbury. Shortly after 1 AM, an MOD police patrol at Cosford reported seeing bright lights in the sky above the base. They followed up by contacting the Met officer at RAF Shawbury, who then described a vast triangular-shaped craft, flying low, around 200 feet, humming softly and sweeping the ground with a beam. The triangle had two bright white lights at the front, one at the rear, and leaving luminous trails. Nick Pope, once MOD's UFO desk officer, later recalled that this was the most high-profile and compelling UFO incident during his tenure in the early 1990s. In 2021, a Freedom of Information request confirmed MOD files referencing dozens of sightings across Western Britain, military and Met personnel, and bright lights over RAF Cosford. Still, no radar logs were released, strange for an object that reportedly flew under radar. Skeptics point to a Russian rocket booster's re-entry on the 30th of March 1993. Simulations show its path, bright fragments streaking across sky with luminous trails, matching many witness reports. Furthermore, the Met officer later suggested a police helicopter could explain his sighting, describing the triangle as forming after the fact, based on his vantage point. The Cosford incident gained traction, not just because of civilian reports, but due to military personnel witnesses at one of the UK's training stations. That lends its weight, especially with Nick Pope's rare public endorsement. Still, no wreckage, no radars, and no definitive explanation. Just a file full of reports, unanswered questions, and the MOD that quietly acknowledged that it was worth investigating. So, a silent triangle in the night sky, seen by those trained to spot aircraft, but no record above radar, no record of a takeoff or landing. Was this a misunderstood satellite burn, a misidentified chopper, or something beyond explanation? Imagine waking before dawn on a frost-cold December night 1980. You're a US airman stationed in rural Suffolk, and your guard shift at the edge of Rendlesham Forest is shattered by strange lights, colours shifting, wood crackling, and animals panicking. Could something alien have landed in the British woodland? Rendlesham Forest sits just east of RAF Woodbridge and Bentwaters in Suffolk, used at the time by the US Air Force. Between the 26th of December and the 28th of December 1980, multiple servicemen reported unexplained lights, a metallic craft, and strange ground impressions near the forest's east gate. Around 3 AM, 2 military sentries spotted a glowing object descending into the forest. They called in others. Walking into the trees, they described a 2 to 3 metre triangular metal object, with red and blue lights perched on its legs. Nearby farm animals suddenly panicked. Morning brought odd evidence: burn marks, broken branches, and 3 depressions in the soil arranged in a triangle. 2 days later, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, Deputy Base Commander, led a follow-up. He recorded the events on tape, noted background radiation was slightly elevated, and saw flashing red lights amid the trees. He also observed star-like lights hovering, one even seeming to beam down light intermittently. Holt filed an official unexplained lights memo to both the US Air Force and the Ministry of Defense on the 13th of January 1981. Decades later, Nick Pope, ex-MOD UFO desk, described Rendlesham Forest as Britain's most compelling UFO case. The MOD later released 18 files under Freedom of Information, confirming only that no formal investigation occurred and no security threat was identified. Experts pointed out multiple likely causes. The lights seen on the first night were probably the Orford Ness lighthouse, visible off the coast and flashing at the same bearing. The fireball might have been a meteor entering the atmosphere, and for the forest glowing red, Colonel Holt's tape suggests optical illusions or distant lights in open terrain, and the indentations, Polita later claimed they were from animals digging. Between the first memo, the Holt tape, and his later 2010 recounting, inconsistencies emerged. Lights became beams. Triangular craft became a craft with legs. Some insiders, like Base Commander Ted Conrad, later claimed that Holt embellished details and no one else saw a craft. Rendlesham Forest remains the UK's most famous UFO case, nicknamed Britain's Roswell. It led to trails and memorial sculptures in the forest. Despite official dismissal, UFO tapes, memos, and multiple service members' testimonies keep interest alive, even among skeptics. So, what was it? The forest lights reflecting off the lens? Mischief by pranksters? Or otherworldly visitors briefly grazing Suffolk's earth? Would you believe the Orford Lighthouse and star plumes? Or do you think something else came at night and left us asking questions to this day?